Spider-Man has been spotted by the police, who still think that he's a wanted criminal. But Spidey doesn't have time. He has to make it to his Aunt May in hospital, and so he thwips their guns away, webs up their spotlight, and wraps them all up in a net. We're reading every Spider-Man ever, and this is Amazing Spider-Man issue 59, The Brand of the Brainwasher. By stealing a directory and getting changed in an elevator, Peter Parker finally arrives in his aunt's hospital room. They embrace, and May feels better just knowing that he's okay. But when she asks where he's been, Peter falters. He was so anxious to see his Aunt May that he forgot to make up a story. But he's saved by the doctor, who shoos him away, keen for May not to have any excitement. But the doc is glad that Peter's safe, after he'd been reported as a missing person. Now knowing that he was reported missing, Peter reports to the police and faces a barrage of questions. Why did Spider-Man do it? Can Peter lead them to Spider-Man's hideout? Tell them everything that he learned. Captain Stacy, who Peter's meeting for the first time, settles the crowd and asks a simple question. Spider-Man claimed to have lost his memory. Do you, Peter Parker, know anything about that? And Peter does, and he tells them the almost truth. That Spider-Man lost his memory and was convinced to join Doc Ock. That he'd seen Peter following them and thought that Peter was an enemy and had kidnapped him. But when Spidey got his memory back, he let Peter go. And the police seem to believe him. When a report comes in for the police commissioner about some dangerous mobsters being released on bail, Captain Stacy asks for a few moments of Peter's time. The captain takes Peter to his home and reveals that he's been studying Spider-Man. He believes that Spider-Man is youthful and intelligent and seemingly driven by some inner compulsion. He wants to know whether Peter agrees with his assessment. But before Peter can answer, their conversation is cut short by Gwen Stacy, Peter's girlfriend. She hugs Peter, happy to see him, and before Captain Stacy can continue the conversation, Gwen asks to take Peter away. Harry's at the coffee bean and hasn't seen Peter in ages. And so, Peter is whisked away and meets up with Harry, who has long forgotten being angry at our hero. But where's MJ? Turns out she has a new job as a dancer at the new club called Gloom Room A Go-Go. Meanwhile and elsewhere, two other figures are discussing MJ, the Mysterious Brainwasher and a lackey. The plan is to have her dancing and taking photos of guests, unaware that the flashbulbs are hypnotic, and they will make the guests return to the club a second time to be brainwashed by a special machine. Their initial trial has already been a success when a hypnotized DA released some men of theirs. Hey, just like the report the police were talking about. And the next step is to invite top officials and to get the entire government under the Brainwasher's control. The next morning, Spider-Man is back to his old routine, webbing up criminals. But it's a shame the criminals will just be set free again soon, according to some shopkeeper. But Spider-Man doesn't have time to think about that. He's got to get home and rest so that he's ready to see MJ's grand opening at the club. And elsewhere, MJ is being taught all about her new job, to dance and then take photos of the guests, but only the ones with the star symbol on their table. And then it's opening night, and Peter, Gwen and Harry are there to support their friend. Captain Stacy is there too, after receiving a free invite, and so are many other important figures for the city. MJ dances, winning over the crowd with her moves before she begins to take pictures. She takes a picture of Captain Stacy, who suddenly starts to feel dizzy. He goes outside for some air, but he ends up in the back of the club where the Brainwasher's crew grab him, ready to take him under their control. Realizing that the captain has been gone for too long, Peter slips away, sure that the camera must have had something to do with the disappearances. He changes into Spider-Man and takes out some goons backstage, but they're able to activate an alarm and warn of Spidey's arrival. Several men with guns turn out to hunt Spider-Man down, but he is Spider-Man and he makes short work of all of them. But just as Spidey is about to get one of the henchmen to talk and reveal the big plan, another man grabs his gun and grabs MJ as a hostage. But again, this is Spider-Man we're talking about, and our hero webs the barrel of the gun shut from several feet away and then swings down to both kick the gangster and sweep MJ up into his arms. He leaves MJ safely on the ground and heads further backstage, smashing through a guarded door where he discovers Captain Stacy, freshly brainwashed. But who's behind this plot? Not the scientist that's running the machine, but a man called the Brainwasher, who grabs Spidey's wrist and is revealed to be the Kingpin all along. Thanks for watching and joining me on this journey. Next week, Superman signs a contract that ruins his life, But before we get to that issue, here's a fun fact about this one. This is the very first issue to feature Mary Jane on the cover, but far from the last. It's also the first appearance of Dr. Winkler, who doesn't yet have a name, but who will go on to create a very important device in Spider-Man's history.